Hello, I'm Yvette Torres, and welcome to another edition of The Road to Recovery. Today we'll be talking about the criminal justice system, preventing problems and ensuring recovery. Joining us in our panel today are Franny Holland, Peer Recovery Support Specialist, Hope Community Services, Oklahoma City. Pam Rodriguez, President, Treatment Alternatives for Safe Communities, TASC, Chicago. Faye Taxman, University Professor, Administration of Justice Department, George Mason University, Fairfax, Virginia. Melvin Williams, Incoming President, the North American Association of Wardens and Superintendents, Albany, New York. Pam, how closely related are substance abuse involvement with the criminal justice system?
Very closely related. We, TASC, did research years ago called ADAM. We participated in the ADAM Arrestee Drug Abuse Monitoring Program. And in that study, people who've been arrested for crimes all across the country were drug tested right at the point of arrest and processing. And anywhere from 60 to 80% of the people who were arrested tested positive for drugs. If you add alcohol to that, the number increases. So just even at a point of rest, people are using drugs.
Faye, 32% of state and 26% of federal prison inmates reported they were under the influence of alcohol or drugs at the time of their offense. Why should we be concerned about that?
Well, like Pam stated, the ADAM program, which does not exist now, but, it was a very good mechanism for us to learn about drug use and the relationship with crime is that people use. And so their use behavior contributes to their exposure to criminal networks, their involvement in criminal conduct, and unhealthy behaviors like increased risk for STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, HIV, tuberculosis. So when people enter prison and you have a large percentage of people who have substance use histories, which actually it's larger than that in terms of histories.
This is what I was going to say, because Pam is saying 80% really tested.
Right.
And the statistics that I have here from the Bureau of Justice say, 32 for state, 26 for federal. I said there's a little discrepancy
those
there, right?
have to do with their offense,
right?
What they were convicted of.
And that's also self-report data.
Right.
Exactly.
As opposed to drug testing.
That's right, and that does not relate to their actual behaviors about how much drugs and alcohol are involved in their lifestyle. So we know about this offender population is really that they're probably the largest, unhealthiest group of Americans there. They have a number of mental health, substance abuse, and physical health disorders that basically propel them to continue within that lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So why should we care? Well, because in many states today, we spend more money on our corrections than we do on primary education. We spend an average, most states spend around $5,000 or $6,000 a year to educate a child, and we spend $25,000 to $30,000 a year to keep someone incarcerated in a cell, only for the likelihood for 70% of those people to come back.
Melvin, within the context, and it was just alluded to, but within that context of the criminal justice system, can you tell us a little more about why treatment for addictions is important for the individuals, the family, and society as a whole?
Well, we talked a little bit about incarceration. People come to prison for a number of different reasons. But as I talk to inmates and people who are arrested or incarcerated, the vast majority were either doing drugs at the time or committing a crime to buy their drugs. And the problem is once we separate this person, male or female, from their own family, we've incarcerated them, we've left their whole family behind. We've really disorganized and destroyed a family. And we send them to prison for a number of years, and we expect them to come out rehabilitated, whatever that means, better than once they came. When in fact, if you don't start some kind of treatment while they're in prison, do something to get his mindset right, nothing will occur except a person will come out who will be much angrier, the family will be disorganized, and it'll be much worse than it was before. So it really would accomplish nothing. So the goal would be to start something when in prison, so a person comes out, they'll have something to go to. But first of all, you must address their mindset. Prison is no magic bullet for changing people's lives. The one thing we know it does, it separates the person from the community. The community wants justice, they say send him to prison, get him out of our community. He's coming back. You know, the millions of people...
And it's costing them, as Faye has said.
Well, anywhere from 20 to 30 and sometimes more than that, $1,000 per year per person, with no guarantee what's going to happen when they come back, except now the family's on some kind of support, and you've already supported the inmate. What is your expectations when he gets back? And the average inmate does less than 36 months incarcerated. That's counting all the people on the far end who are doing life. The majority of people go to prison or jail for a very short period of time and then come back. What is your expectation when they come back? You hope they won't get arrested again or commit an offense against the community.
Pam, let me go back to a little bit on the cost. What has TASC's experience have been in reducing costs because you are engaged in providing addiction treatment services?
As Faye said, the cost of incarceration is $25,000 to $30,000 a year. And the cost of diverting people to community-based treatment runs the range from maybe $3,000 to about $10,000 per person. And so,
is it per year or per units of services, per incident
per
service?
person? And so the person is supervised in treatment and then post-treatment for periods in excess of a year. But if you even compare the annual costs and put the person or put all of that cost into the first year of service for the individual, the cost savings are anywhere from, really conservative estimates are $3 saved for every dollar spent, but the usual statistic cited is $7 saved for every dollar spent on treating a person rather than incarcerating them.
Well, it's also all the other criminal justice costs that are hidden. There's the police costs, there's the judiciary, prosecutors, defense services.
The health costs.
Most of those estimates don't include the enormous health costs because we haven't really, we're just beginning to understand the tragic events that have occurred with our, love affair with incarceration in terms of impact on communities, impact on health of people, willingness of abilities of people to become productive members of society. So, I think there's some new studies going on that are trying to really look at some of these cost benefits.
The other thing it doesn't look at is the cost of recidivism. Right. That's really just a cost per incident. So when anywhere from 50 to 70% of incarcerated people recidivate, you can exponentially increase the costs of incarceration.
Franny.
Yeah.
You have gone through a system,
Yes.
and you have experienced, you are in recovery, you have
Yes.
experienced an addiction. You want to talk about your experience when you were faced with that situation?
Sure. I was addicted to heroin for 17 years. Before that, it was kind of trial and error with drugs, a little of this, a little of that. It got to a point to where I knew I had to stop. I didn't have a clue how. Everyone, literally everyone I knew did drugs. So I would try to stop on my own, and then I didn't know what to do or how to go about living a clean life. I had never experienced a functional life. So when I finally went to prison, my parole officer, God love him, he saved my life. He said, "You are not going home from here, you're going to rehab." That's the best thing that ever could have happened to me, because I remember sitting in my cell and I kind of laughed and thought, "You are so much happier now than you ever were before." When prison is a step up, your life's in sorry shape, And I knew I'm going to do this, I just don't know how. Well, my parole officer stepped in, sent me to rehab. From there I went to sober living, and then I went home. Through that process, I was able to get some sort of a foundation where I had met people who were clean and sober, people who were trying to be clean. I learned a lot of things about